What is up? What is going on? My name is Arvind Ramkrishna. Welcome to another episode of Ask Art. This is question number 3 from another one of our friends. This is a very difficult question, actually. It's an interesting question. It's coming from a gentleman named Jeff, and he asked me a question whether it is possible to change his career path even though he is over 50. And oh, by the way, that is really awesome. I am totally inspired by that. He's wanting to find out whether he can get into automotive design or at least a bare minimum into the design field or product design. So let's listen to his question.
Arvind, I got my bachelor's degree in industrial design 20 years ago. I was at the top of my class. I went to the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. Right now I am 54 years old, but I would love to get into automotive design. At the very least, I would like to get back into product design. Do you have any recommendations you could give me? I would appreciate any input you can give me. Thank you very much. As far as maturity, I had plenty of it. I completed a 4-year program in 3.5 years. And again, at the top of my class, I was nominated for the Industrial Design Merit Awards, which means, the top of your class. So I'm skilled at industrial design. I'm dedicated. I'm mature enough. I just want to know if at my age I could get back into it. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Jeff, for that question. It's a great question, and it's also somewhat of a difficult question for me to answer. So I'm going to see if I can break things down a little bit and see if I can give you a few options. So let's just talk about option number 1. And the reason why some of this is a little bit difficult for me to advise you, or at least advise you properly, is that if you are looking into getting into automotive design or industrial design, or you say the minimum of industrial design, then that means I'm assuming that you are not currently practicing as an industrial designer or in the field of the automotive industry of some sort. Now, if that's the case, that's only if that's the case, since I don't really know what sort of job that you currently hold or what profession you have been actively involved in after your graduation. You say you graduated 20 years ago in industrial design. My first suggestion would be to put together a portfolio. If you have a strong aptitude for design and for problem solving, at the end of the day, when you go and interview with somebody, interview at a company, then that is one of the things that they're going to be looking for. How well are you able to problem solve? How well are you able to manage your project? How well are you able to sketch out your ideas and communicate that visually? Therefore, the portfolio gives you the visual aspect, and it also showcases your problem-solving ability. Now let's talk about the content of your portfolio. If you are still interested in entering into the field of design or working for a design company and you want to be an industrial designer versus, let's say, a manager that's managing a design team, then the other thing you need to consider is how well you are able to use the tools of the trade. Meaning that, are you able to take up a sheet of paper and ideate and sketch? And I would say probably yes, because you've gone through the curriculum, you know what it's all about. The second thing is, are you able to use digital tools? And that's going to be strictly based on the company. If the company right now is using software like Painter and they're using Photoshop and they require their designers to use those tools to communicate, then that is another area that you need to really understand on whether you'd be able to pick up the craft. In fact, I would say that you'd have to be ready, to be honest. If you want to join a company, the company is going to expect that you are very much adept at using the digital skills, and they are going to assume that you are already good at your analog skill sets. So you have to be able to show your flexibility in being able to use both kinds of skill sets. Now, if it's a company that doesn't even use the digital tools at all, then okay. But again, it just depends where you're applying and what the expectations of the company is. So to summarize, showcase your ability to be able to use digital tools as well as analog tools, or even some sort of 3D software like Maya or Rhino. A lot of these programs are being used, or Alias. A lot of these programs are being used by industrial designers all over the country. So this brings me now to my next point, which is actually perfect because we kind of touched upon this just a second ago, and that is research. Just make sure that whatever job you're applying for is that you research the company really well. Try to understand what kind of products the company makes, what their expertise is, and also try to assess whether that expertise or those products is the right fit for you. Maybe you don't want to design the things that they're designing, or you don't have a passion for it. Typically, though, when you're an industrial designer, you should be able to do pretty much anything, get into any kind of field and be able to function, because at the end of the day, it is again about problem solving, creative problem solving. Now let's talk about automotive design. I am not going to lie to you. Automotive design field is extremely competitive. It is extremely competitive even for the students that are enrolled in private schools, whether it be Art Center or College for Creative Studies, Lawrence Tech. All these schools, Cleveland Institute of Art, they specialize in automotive design. They know exactly what the OEMs want and what the OEMs look for. And you have to also understand there's a relationship that's also built with these schools. Where you can typically get into automotive design, or where that is not the case, is where other schools have a different kind of expertise that can be related back to automotive design. So maybe user interface design is something that some other schools may specialize in that you may be able to interview for, or if that particular job is something that Ford Motor Company or General Motors that they're looking for, then there might be some opportunities there. If you're looking for exterior design and interior design, the exterior design jobs are very, very difficult. Like I say, they typically take, when people graduate from these schools, these private schools, is maybe 3 or 4 people end up getting exterior positions out of the 15 people who applied. The rest of them end up working on interiors, and they're also extremely, extremely good. So they are very proficient at their sketching ability, communicating visually. That's just how that program is set up. They really teach you how to draw. Without knowing your background and what you do and what your skill sets are and how good you are, it's very difficult for me to assess whether you are up in that particular level or not. But I will say that that's something that you want to measure yourself up to. That if you're looking for that kind of a job, then you have to showcase your ability to be able to compete. Or if you're not able to compete at that level, then you should at least be able to show what else you have to offer. What is your value proposition to the company over and above? If it's not just the drawing, then maybe it's the ideation. Maybe it's the actual ideas and how to implement those ideas. Maybe it's more managerial or something like that. I'd have to think that with 20 years or so in the industry and whatever field you've been working on, solving problems, then there has to be some merit to that. And maybe that can be useful for the company that you're applying for. But again, you really have to figure out what it is that you want to do. If it's exterior, I'm just kind of being blunt, that it's very hard, very competitive, and you have to be able to show that you can keep up with the people who are currently holding those positions. Now, there's another caveat to even that. and the reason why I say that is that even the automotive industry in itself is changing. And they also need to leverage different viewpoints and expertise as well, as I sort of see it. This is just my opinion, but I'm sure you're very well aware that autonomous vehicles are going to be a reality. People are working on it. Google has created a car that can drive itself. That said, if you can possibly maybe do some continuous development, or if you can take some classes into understanding the trends of the future and start to develop and formulate your ideas to the new trends, or I wouldn't even say it's a trend, the new reality that we're going to be seeing before us, and start to figure out how do we solve problems for autonomous vehicles. What does that interior look like? What does the interaction look like within the vehicle now that the driver, or there are no drivers now, you're basically all passengers, and the car's going to drive itself? What kind of problems? I mean, it's basically a new opportunity for you to now understand how people are now going to use their vehicles. So if you can even put together ideas and communicate that effectively, because it's very new, then those are some opportunities that you can also think of. But I don't think it's going to be easy unless you do a lot of research and just show that you put a lot of thought and effort into it, and things that you probably already know that I don't really need to tell you. So this first part that we just discussed is really centered around, well, I'd like to get back into the industry and I want to work for a company. So that's basically the advice that I have for if you want to work for a company. You can also leverage or look into working as a consultant or working under contract with OEMs. I mean, those are also different sorts of opportunities that are available to you if you feel that you are have a really good, strong background in design. Now, the second option, this is actually like my favorite option. And that is the fact that you can go at this alone. If you are really passionate about design and you're really passionate about getting back into the industry, I tell you, there is no better time than now to be able to think of a product and working toward making it a reality. We're living in such a fantastic time right now that allots many of you, it doesn't matter whether you're even a student or whether you are a professional, as long as you have a lot of great ideas swirling around your head, and if you're disciplined enough and you have a good work ethic and you have consistency in execution and making sure that you keep working on your idea to materialize it, then you have avenues like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. There's so many people who are out there. Just think about it. There are not even a lot of design experts. There's so many people that have great ideas out there that don't even want to work for a company. So if you need to work for a company, then what we just talked about is really an avenue that you can pursue. But my other question is that with all your expertise and your collective years of experience, I might even ask why. Why not do something on your own? Why not take some of that expertise that you've already developed and start to sketch on your own and create your own ideas, develop your own ideas, and bring them to reality? Crowdfunding is so big right now, and it's gotten, I mean, if you look at a graph at how many people who have been funding their projects and who've been doing really well. I'm not saying that's easy, by the way. I mean, there's a whole new level of expertise you have to learn. There's marketing. There's so many other avenues that you have to learn how to be an expert in. Building relationships for spreading your product, and it's assuming that the idea that you have for your product is a good idea. Nobody wants to spread a bad idea. But the point is that it's possible. And what's great about the United States is that you can do this. You can do this literally on your own. If you look at the crowdfunding trends that have been started from, I don't know, maybe 2008 or 2000, I'm trying to remember when all this stuff started. Probably well before prior on 2008. I'd have to look that up, but I know that Kickstarter was there at least in 2010. But ever since that time period, I mean 6 years ago, 2010, the trends have been up. And there's so many people who are willing to back up a good idea. You don't have to go to a venture capitalist to get money. If you have done all your research and you're truly solving a pain point or a problem for people and you have a solution ready for them, and you've done all your homework and you've got a great product, you have your proof of concept made, you have a working prototype, you've got feedback from your target audience, then it's really a terrific time. I mean, you've got all the makings of creating a company on your own and changing the world, right? And you're not going to have a better feeling than impacting the world with your own ideas and your own products. I think it's awesome. It's such an awesome time. The cool thing is that look at shows like Shark Tank. So many people watch Shark Tank, and there's people who have their proof of concept and even people who may have actually sold X amount of their ideas or their products, having them made, and now they just want to grow their business. Crowdfunding allows them to do that because, one, it shows them that it shows the proof of the concept, and it also shows that there's a market segment willing to purchase the product, and all they need is to scale it. So they can go to venture capitalists to get the funding in order to scale it, or at least pitch the idea that it's a scalable product, or I mean business. So that is about it. Just to summarize all the things we talked about, the first order of advice that I gave was to make sure you had a portfolio that showcases your talent, your problem-solving ability, and your ability to communicate visually. All these are going to be very important. That is, of course, if you're thinking of working for a design consultancy or a design company, they're going to be looking for that. The second part of that, like I had mentioned, was to show your flexibility, to show that you can not only communicate using traditional mediums, traditional rendering materials, but also showing that you know how to handle the digital tools, whether it's going to be Photoshop and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much the reality. And most of the companies, not all of them, will necessitate that you know how to use these tools. Thirdly, we said that you need to do your research just to make sure that the companies that you want to interview for, the companies you're interested in, that you understand it's also a right fit for you. It's not necessary that you just take any company. You have to enjoy what it is that you want to do, and make sure you thoroughly research the company and know the products that they make and show some knowledge for that. These are all things I'm sure you, like I say, you probably already know anyway. I just had to make sure that other people who are listening that don't have as much experience as you do, that they kind of get a little bit more information out of this. We talked about automotive industry. We talked about what it takes to get into exterior design and interior design, but we also talked about what it would be like to look at opportunities that are not the typical status quo job. That is looking at user interface, maybe looking at autonomous vehicles and how people will now use their vehicles in a different way. And maybe exterior design is not even important when it comes to autonomous vehicles. Those are things that you can research and see whether you can provide some solutions within your portfolio. So that's another area of opportunity for you to showcase your ability to solve problems. And then lastly, like we said before, was going at it alone. That means using your expertise of problem solving and your design background to create your own products and maybe possibly having it crowdfunded. We live in fantastic times. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Jeff, I hope this answered most of your questions. And if not, once again, just send me another quick note and ask me to clarify a few things. Again, I don't completely know your background and what you're currently doing, so I just hope that some of this information helped you in some way. That's a wrap on Driven to Draw. Just a couple things before you go. One, if you enjoyed this episode and found it useful, let me know your thoughts and provide me some feedback on iTunes. Just click on the link below on the show notes. I would sincerely appreciate it. It would mean so much to me. The second thing is remember that I do believe in you. You can be creative if you set your mind to it. All you need to do is just try. Just creating a sketch every single day, spending 10-15 minutes a day, you're going to see your skills grow exponentially. Take that action. Peace out. I'll see you folks next time on Driven to Draw. Have a good one.